In this video, we're going to be using our Rosemount 3051 pressure transmitter over here. And we're going to be wiring it up to our DeltaV trainers here. And then with the virtual machine on this computer right here, with AMS installed, we're going to be configuring it through DeltaV, using it as the communication here instead of a HART modem, and setting up a few other settings in AMS. So the first thing that we want to do here before we connect and wire up our device to the DeltaV control system is we want to just remove power. There's two fuses over here on the side. And you'll see when we pull power here to the fuses, the DeltaV hardware powers down, and then we will now be ready to wire it up. The other thing that we want to do is we want to log into the virtual machine here, or start it up anyways. So on the desktop here, there is Oracle VirtualBox. We'll be double clicking on that, opening up, and we should just have the one virtual machine here, DeltaV 12.3.1, and there should be a snapshot here with the system ID key tagged to it. We'll just click restore on that, so it'll clean out anything that someone else might have done to the virtual machine. And then if we click start, it should start the virtual machine up for us. And there you can see it's restoring the snapshot. So the next thing we're going to do is wire up the device now that we've powered down the DeltaV hardware. All right, so you can see I have some wires connected down to our Rosemount transmitter here. We're using card 1, which is located right up here. It's an analog input card. It's broken out down below here, and the first channel is these top, positive being red, negative being black, and then green being ground. If we were using a twisted pair and we had a shield or anything like that, we could ground it right there. So then these terminals come out, they run out. The first terminal comes over to our fuse here, so we have a fuse in the loop. You can see I've got the fuse open right now. When we close that, it's going to connect the fuse to both sides of these terminals, and we're going to have continuity through. On the other side of the fuse, it comes down to the positive of our device right here, and then the negative of the power comm terminal on our device on the Rosemount transmitter goes back up to the negative of our channel. So we're on card 1, C01, it stands for card 1, and then channel 1's the top one. Then this would be channel 2, this would be channel 3, and so on, up to 8 channels on this. And you can see all the channels there are shown right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the power back onto the DeltaV control system. You can see the lights are on and blinking. One of the important things here to ensure that this was left, it was decommissioned, all of these lights here on the card should be flashing in error right now. That means that the DeltaV hardware is not connected to a network. So once the controller is done loading up here, it should also have its error light blinking. And just to show you, I'll just take you over to another one here that hasn't been shut down properly. You can see the error lights are not flashing. That means it's still commissioned and it still thinks it's part of a network, which could be a problem here in the lab when we're using virtual machines, because if we restore a snapshot, then this piece of hardware won't be able to find our software over here. So it should be like this. If it's not like that, talk to your instructor and he can help remedy the problem there. Okay, so we've got this connected up. Fuse is still out over here. So, and we shouldn't have any power on the display of our transmitter. You can see we don't. So once I close this fuse here, you should see now the transmitter powering up. So it's powered up. The next step now is to configure it in our DeltaV control system so we can talk to it. Right now, to set up, to talk to our transmitter through DeltaV, we're gonna need to open up DeltaV Explorer, which is located on the desktop here. So just double click that. The next step here is we're gonna click on decommission nodes right here. We wanna make sure that there's something sitting here. And that's our controller, which is right up here. This guy right here, and you can see I've attached an Ethernet cable to the primary port, the one in the front here, to the controller, and there should be this light here should be blinking every so often to indicate communication. There we go, it blinked. And our software over here can see the controller. If that wasn't there, we wouldn't be able to see the controller. So that's good. The other thing we want to make sure is the DeltaV control system is licensed. So first thing to do is you want to go to input down here. There's a little menu here for a virtual machine. We'll click devices, up to USB, and we're going to make sure that we have this AKS HASP selected. Once that's selected, we can just double check that it took it. USB. There's a checkbox beside it now, so we know that the virtual machine can now see that piece of hardware. And what we want to do now is go over to setup here and just check. If we click on licenses, if we right click, show system ID key, you can see it still doesn't see it yet. We might just need to wait a second or two, and then it should show up. All right, there, now you can see it actually shows the system ID key right there, and that actually matches the ID that we have for our snapshot for the virtual machine. So now that it sees that, it sees the license, the dongle, the system ID key. So now we can use DeltaV. So we'll click OK, and that took about, I don't know, 2 minutes or a minute for that to recognize. So we want to make sure that we do set that up right when we get into the virtual machine. Commission our controller. So to do that, we've got to go over to our control network, right click on it, and go down to commission controller. So it's going to ask us which controller we want to commission. We only have the one on our network, so we'll click on that and click OK. There's going to be some settings in here that we could change if we wanted, but we'll just leave as the default. So we can flash lights to identify a controller if there's multiple in a cabinet, things like that. We'll go back over here to general and we'll click OK. It's going to ask if we want to auto sense all of the I/O cards. So that would be these remaining cards that are, we've got card 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to our last one there, which is a Foundation Fieldbus card. We will click yes to that, and it will auto sense all of those. So this usually takes about 30 seconds or so, and then it should be all set up and commissioned. So click OK, and over here you can see there's this blue triangle indicating that we've got new hardware added to our system here. It hasn't been yet downloaded. And then the other thing that I want to point out is all of our cards here in the I/O that have been found there. You can see they all have a blue triangle beside them. So let's, what we'll do first though is before we do the download, we might as well configure a device. So we will drill down into card 1 here. We want channel 1, right? So we're going to right click and go down to properties, and we want to enable this channel. And we can actually give it a tag over here. We'll call it PT-235, and we also want to make sure that this is set up to be a HART device. So the DeltaV control system can use HART protocol to talk to it. So if we'll click OK to that, enabled, description can be left as, we can actually delete that or just leave it as an analog input channel. And the HART long tag can be left as blank. Click OK. It's saying, hey, this device already has a tag assigned to it and you're changing it. It's just confirming that you want to do that, and we click yes. So there, now you can see this here is got color to it. It's not grayed out. That means it's enabled on the DeltaV control system. And there's our P235, and it's a HART device. So the next thing that we want to do is we're going to right click, and we want to download all of this, all these changes that we made. So we're going to download the control network. It's going to prompt us and say, hey, you sure you want to do this? If you're online controlling stuff, it could have big changes. Close, and now all of our triangles should be gone, and we have that downloaded. We can also see up here on the card that channel 1 has a light. If I was to pull the fuse, you would see that light go out and flash, indicating that there's an open circuit, right? So that's kind of a handy feature for troubleshooting. I close the fuse again, and now it's solid. So one other thing we want to do here before we move on to using AMS is you notice how there's a weird kind of icon here with HART in red showing up for our PT235. It needs to know some more information about the device. What we can do to get that information is if we right click and click Auto Sense HART Device, it's going to ask for the information from the device here. So we should see some options pop up here once it gets that information. So there you can see this is the stuff we'd configured. This is what I got from the device. And so what we can do is we can just click on, we can select all of that there, and it's saying check the values to be reconciled. So we want to use all of these values right here, because we need the three important ones that we need here are these: the manufacturer, the model, and the revision 3 right here. So if we click OK, it's going to put those all to the device, and now you can see there it's got an icon there now that is used to indicate that it knows what the device is now in our system. So I'm going to go ahead here and download the physical network and make all those changes permanent. Do an AMS is we want to go to start AMS, and we want to terminate all servers in case the server is running. So this will terminate the server, and then now we can go in and change the network configuration, because in AMS we're going to have to point it to DeltaV to talk to our device. So yeah, we're using the DeltaV hardware to talk out to our transmitter now. Alright there, so we got our message that all the server has been terminated for AMS, so it's shut off for now. If we click start all programs and we go back to AMS device manager, this time we want to configure, whoops, I clicked the wrong thing here, close that. We want to configure the network configuration right here. So we're going to go add, and we want to add a DeltaV network to AMS, so we click install and we click next. We can leave it as the default name, DeltaV Network 1. And now it's going to ask us for our Professional Plus or our Pro Plus station ID, which is located right here in DeltaV Explorer. So it's that WIN number. So we should have WIN 9D. We also need to key in our password, which is capital EMERSON. So Emerson 1 with a capital E. Put that in twice. Click next. There, so we got in. Now it's asking you which devices do you want to be able to talk to. We're just going to leave it as the default. The main one we're concerned with is heart at the top. And we can leave this as is. And now we've got DeltaV network configured in AMS. We can close this. And so the next step here, we're going to go to start, and we're going to go all programs, AMS device manager, and this time we want to just open up AMS device manager. So it's going to open up AMS device manager, and now we're going to actually find the device. So to do that, we got to go to our physical networks. There's our workstation. We'll drill down. You can see the DeltaV network is showing up here. If we wouldn't have configured that, it would not be here. We drill down, we can't see anything. If we can't see anything, we click rebuild hierarchy, and what it's going to do is it's going to search through DeltaV and find our device. You can see controller, IO. So this menu right here, it mirrors what was shown in DeltaV Explorer. And so now the two pieces of software are connected, and we can see our device right here with you can see it's a Rosemount 3051 and device revision is 3. So it's all set up, and AMS can now see it. The thing we're going to do here is we're going to configure an alert on this device using the alert monitor right here. So the benefit of the alert monitor is since we're dealing with a smart device here, it can determine if there's something has failed, like the circuit board, or if there's an open loop or something like that. It can alert us in AMS, so the user can go out and troubleshoot the device or replace it, and you can also track why it failed, which is a benefit to reliability and figuring out what devices are more reliable and how to increase the reliability of a control system. So what we want to do here now is you can see there's active alerts, unacknowledged alerts. Nothing in there right now because we don't have any devices configured. But we're going to go and configure PT235 here by clicking configure. And here's where we configure all our devices. If we had devices that were configured, they would show up here. But since we don't have anything yet, we need to add. And here's the available devices that we can add. So I'm going to click OK. It's added now. And if I select it and edit the selected list, you can see it brings up a whole bunch of stuff that we can have it alert on, and we basically have everything checked on. You can see some auto limit stuff, failed things, the CPU board, stuff like that. Lots of stuff on here that it can alert you on, right? So I'll I'll click OK. Oh, one other thing we want to do is you can have it check the device every hour, or what we want in this case, because we want the alert to come up fairly fast, is every 1 minute. So I'm going to change this to happen every 1 minute, and we'll click OK. So that's all set up. We can go ahead and close this, and it's saying you've changed some stuff. Do you want to save it? And yes, of course. Click yes. And now what we're going to do to test this is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to open up the fuse here, and we should lose communications. And within the minute that we set there for time, well, that was quick, it's up, and you can see it detected no communication, right? So, and down here on the bottom of the screen, if we had AMS running on the computer, a little pop-up would appear and show that we have something going on with this device and we need to go and try to fix it. So to clear that, then we would put the fuse back in, and our communication should be restored, and eventually this should go away. You can see it's got unacknowledged stuff over here, so if we missed it, or if the fuse went back in, the no communication alert is still here, right? And if I click acknowledged here, it should go away. Yes, there, so it went away. And over here as well, active alerts, everything's gone now, it's started back up, and I can also should be able to acknowledge the cold start as well, and it should go away. And so now we're all clear, everything's good, and the system is happy. So one other thing I wanted to point out here is an audit trail. Oops, I'll go back, sorry. In the alert monitor here, we go to audit trail, and it shows a list. If we're on the alt tab, it shows basically everything that's happened in the AMS system. But if we're after, say, status alerts here, and we could also, from the alert monitor, we could also go down and click filter here, and we could filter out between a certain date if we wanted to the reason. So you can see reason is shown over here. If we want to see all of the COM failures, COMM, and I click OK, it's going to filter out any reason that has COM in it. So now we can look at devices and say, okay, how many failures are we having due to communications? And we can track that, we can record that. If we need to figure out mean time between failure or anything like that, we can pull all of that out of the system here if we wanted to from this audit trail. So it's pretty powerful that way. So this is another reason why having AMS definitely helps with the reliability of your system. Right now, so to properly shut all of this down, we're going to close AMS, close that window. The most important thing that we do is that we decommission our DeltaV controller. So back in DeltaV, exploring DeltaV here in DeltaV Explorer, we want to right click on the controller and go to decommission. So you can see up there right now, we've got some green lights and amber light indicating that we have our channel 1 enabled. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, are you sure you want to decommission the controller? We're going to click yes, and now it's been decommissioned. And what we should see happen now up there is all of our lights. We should have our error lights starting to show red, and once that is done, once it's completed, once we've decommissioned the controller, you can see the controller's error light just came on. That means now the hardware is ready for use again by another group. So we technically don't even really need to close this, but I'll close Exploring DeltaV. We can close the alert monitor, and what we can do next is, since we're in a virtual machine environment, we can click exit down here, and it's going to say to power off the machine, yes we want to, and we want to restore our snapshot. What that's going to do is it's going to restore it back to where we started, so it's ready for someone else to do this same process. So if we click OK, the snapshot is restored, and we're back to our virtual machine software here, back to square one. So we can go ahead and exit out of that.